Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officials with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is Football Officiating Training Tape number 3. We're going to take a look at a variety of foul situations, talk about mechanics, positioning, judgment, and then really focus in on penalty enforcement and how we can do that in an efficient manner. So hopefully these plays are helpful for your crew as we get going with the season this week. Make sure you're talking as a crew how we're going to handle these kinds of plays, penalty enforcement, so we can be efficient. Not do it too quickly that we do it incorrectly, but we can be efficient in our penalty enforcement and communication with the coaches. Again, not picking on any one team, player, or official, or crew, just working through some plays so we can get better and get ready for the season here this week. So with that, we'll look at some plays. Okay, interesting play situation here. We actually had 2 of these last year in the Prep Bowl. You'll see that the offense snaps the ball, rolls out to the right a little bit, and then they're going to throw it to the top of the screen to try to run a screen. And number 54 ultimately catches the pass and is tackled. So we have illegal touching on the offense here. This is going to be a 5-yard penalty from the previous spot and a loss of down. Couple things of note, rules-wise. If you take a look at 756 on page 63, it talks about eligibility of receivers as it relates to catching a legal forward pass. So first thing, all A players are eligible by position and number, including those at the time of the snap who are on the ends of their scrimmage line or legally behind the line, and are numbered 1 through 49 or 80 through 99. So in this case, number 54, not one of those. So he is ineligible to touch the pass. The second piece is all A players become eligible when B touches a legal forward pass. In this case, you'll see that there is no Team B player in the vicinity. The number 54 touches this pass. Even if number 1 touched the pass or muffed it, and then ultimately 54 ended up with the ball or ended up muffing the pass, it would still be a foul for illegal touching because Team B has not touched the pass, thus making all Team A players eligible. The other rule that we're looking at is Article 13, which is on page 64, and it talks about ineligible A players have illegally touched a forward pass if he bats, muffs, or catches a legal forward pass unless the pass has first been touched by Team B. So in this case, we have a pass not touched by B, and it was muffed and ultimately caught by number 54. So it has to be an intentional act for it to be illegal touching, which is what we have here. So couple rules to know for it. It's pretty unusual, doesn't happen all that often, but we need to know what to do with it. The point here is Team B has to touch the pass for number 54 to be able to muff, touch, intentionally catch the pass, which doesn't happen here. The second piece, remember, it's 5 yards and loss of down. Don't forget that piece. And again, the intention of the offensive player has to be part of this judgment. So if we throw the pass and this hits number 54 in the back of the head, this would not be a foul for legal touching. He has to reach out, bat, muff, catch. If he's hit in the back of the legs or the back of the head with the ball, this would not be a foul. In this case, clearly trying to catch it, not touched by Team B. So we have illegal touching on number 54, 5 yards, loss of down. Well handled by the crew. Okay, on this play I want you to take a look at the right tackle, number 73, and then the back and their blocking action. Think about it mechanically and what you'd be looking at, and then rules and judgment wise. So first, let's start with the rule. Take a look at Rule 2, Section 17 on page 31. That talks about the free blocking zone and blocking below the waist. So first part, Article 2, blocking below the waist is permitted in the free blocking zone when the following conditions are met. All players involved in the blocking are on the line of scrimmage and in the zone at the snap. So that first part is good. But then the second part says that the contact must be in the zone. And if you go to Article 1, it talks about the size of the free blocking zone, which is 4 yards each side of the snap, the spot of the snap, and then 3 yards behind the line. So you'll see that this block takes place 4 to 5 yards behind the spot of the snap, which means the contact is not in the zone, which would mean that this is already a problem. The second piece is Article 4, the free blocking zone disintegrates when the ball leaves the zone. So even if this had been at 3 yards, this still would have been a problem because the ball is already out of the zone. We have a shotgun formation here. The ball is out of the zone almost immediately. By philosophy and by interpretation, we allow blocking below the waist in the free blocking zone with 2 linemen, assuming they do it immediately on a shotgun type formation play. So this is a problem for a couple reasons. The contact is outside the zone. It's below the waist. The ball is out of the zone, so the zone is disintegrated. So we should have a foul here for a legal block below the waist at a minimum. And then the second piece is we have high contact engagement by the back, which makes this block a chop block as well. So it's illegal for a couple reasons. I realize that this is with very little time to play in a very tight game, and this would be a really big penalty, but this is a safety foul and one we would want called. The second piece of this is mechanics, judgment-wise. So line of scrimmage officials, even in passing situations, we should be staying home on the line until the pass is imminent, and then we can go. Hopefully we can pick up this tackle because this is a longer developing play. Hopefully we can pick up the tackle. When he gets beat like this, he's suspect. So when we see that he gets beat to the inside like this, we need to have our eyes on him and realize that he is a big time threat to foul, which he does here. He blocks below the waist, outside the zone, ball is out of the zone, and we should have a blocking below the waist foul. And then referees, you should have a piece of this as well. When we have a free player heading towards the quarterback, we should pick up that guy, and when he gets cut low like this and then ultimately contacted high by the back, we should have a piece of this as well. So really, ideally, we would want 2 flags down on this. I know it's a tough play at a real key point in the game, but this is a pretty clear blocking below the waist foul and chop block that we would want to get. Chop blocks and blocks below the waist, for that matter, are really dangerous blocks when they're not done legally. Chop blocks are always illegal, and we want to make sure that we get them. And the key to getting these is mechanics. And I don't think we're seeing blocks below the waist and deciding it's okay. I just think we're not seeing them because we're moving our eyes elsewhere. So line of scrimmage officials, make sure you stay home, and then referees, make sure you pick up that free defender so that you can help with threats for foul like this one. Okay, in this play we're going to talk about offensive holding, philosophy, and the mechanics. So we have a running play up the middle. Number 53 is kind of the lead block, about 4 or 5 yards downfield, and he gets his arms around the defender and ultimately takes him to the ground. So we have an excellent call for offensive holding by the umpire here. His mechanics are excellent. He sticks with the backside blocks a little bit longer, not staring at the ball carrier. He's not important here. You'll see 53, he's beat. He's got his arm outside the frame. Defender tries to get away from him, and then he ultimately takes him to the ground. So clearly offensive holding, one that we would want called. Excellent mechanics by the umpire. He sticks with backside. If he moves to the front side to watch the ball carrier here too quickly, he's not going to pick this one up. And these takedown holds are ones that we would want called. And it is called in this situation. So well done by the umpire here. He sticks backside with his keys, even though they came downfield to the second level. And then the other piece of it that I really like is that we enforce the penalty properly from the spot of the foul. It's about 4 yards downfield versus going to the previous spot or some other spot that doesn't really make sense for this play. We enforce it properly from the spot of the foul as it is downfield. So well done on that. Finally, philosophy-wise, And then judgment for offensive holding. Officials of all positions, not just umpire, we need to make sure that when we call offensive holding, it needs to be really big, because offensive fouls like holding are just killer, and most of the time the offense is going to have to punt. They're not going to be able to make up that yardage, because if it's a holding foul 10 yards behind the line, it's going to be 3rd and 37, and that's really difficult to make it up. So we just need to make sure that holding penalties are really obvious. You know, tell yourself that's a foul, that's a foul, that's a foul, and then you can throw. You don't need to throw it immediately. You need to play it over in your head, make sure that you have what you have, and then throw. Typically, when feet are beat, they're going to cheat. So in this case, you know, he can't get out in front of the defender. He can't, you know, seal him off from the running back, and so he puts his arms around him. The defensive player tries to get away. That's kind of a dead giveaway that his feet are beat and that he has to do something to keep the defender from making the play, which he does here. So philosophy-wise, looking for feet that are beat, need to make sure that we have a material effect restriction. It can't be just a little jersey grab. It needs to be something big. This is arms outside the frame, feet are beat, takes them to the ground. This is offensive holding that we wouldn't want called. Okay, as we mentioned, we had illegal touching twice last year, and here's the other example. Pretty clear case of illegal touching, no problem there. Couple things to point out mechanically. Keep officiating, which this crew does, because you'll see number 79 gets hit and the ball's out. Now we have a scrum. Ultimately, the offense recovers, but we need to keep officiating, because if the defense recovers here, they're going to decline this foul and take the football. We have 2nd down here, so keep officiating, which this crew does. The other thing I want to point out on this is, besides the obviously legal touching, we talked about the rules that cover this earlier. Take a look at the passer. Number 1 rolls out, can't find anybody, and then he ends up dumping it right in front of him to avoid the sack. He's trying to avoid yardage, and then he throws it into an area not occupied by an eligible receiver. So technically, by rule, we have intentional grounding on this play. Now, I'm not going to fault the crew for not calling this. I've seen this maybe twice in my career. It doesn't happen very often, and I think both times it didn't get called, and I'm totally fine with that. But what I want crews to understand is what constitutes illegal grounding, what constitutes illegal forward pass, and so on. And in this case, we have a quarterback trying to save yardage, trying to save time, not necessarily in this case, but that would be another factor. But he's trying to save yardage, and he dumps it forward into an area not occupied by an eligible receiver. And even though it never did hit the ground, this is technically an intentional grounding foul, which carries a 5-yard penalty from the spot of the foul and loss of down. In this case, it would be half the distance and loss of down. But not faulting the crew, but what I want officials to understand, referees especially, is that even though the ball doesn't hit the ground, we still have intentional grounding as a possibility. So just be aware of that. Keep that in your repertoire, so to speak. But main thing is, we want to be able to speak to the fact about what intentional grounding is and isn't, and be able to speak with rules language. And if we have intentional grounding, we need to be able to explain that the quarterback was trying to save yardage and he threw it to an area not occupied by an eligible receiver, which is what we have here. So clearly illegal touching, and we have that called. Great job. But remember the aspects of intentional grounding as well. This play is a pretty clear example of a horse collar tackle. You'll see that the quarterback gets flushed out of the pocket. Line of scrimmage officials, we should stay home, which we do here. We're working nice and deep. And then he gets that opening in the back of his jersey and yanks him to the ground. So that's what we're looking for with a horse collar tackle. Grabs him in one of those openings there, or in the nameplate area, which is the rule change for this year. Don't nitpick on that. If you think it's even close to the nameplate and he yanks him to the ground, we would want that called as a foul. Referees, we don't need to do a preliminary signal on this. This is pretty obvious that they will take it. Just go ahead and signal this and then enforce it. But you'll see here in the replay, 11 gets grabbed by 66 and yanked to the ground. Pretty clear-cut case of a horse collar tackle. And line of scrimmage officials let the runner pass you so that you have a good wide open look of this from behind, which we do here. So well done mechanically. We're deep, have a good perspective, let the play pass us. So we have a good look at this. Referees might be able to assist, but it kind of goes away from us on this. So our line of scrimmage guy might be on their own on this. So well done to get this. This is a pretty clear-cut case. Don't forget, nameplate is also a possibility for horse collar tackle this year, and this is what we're looking for, where the offensive player gets yanked to the ground by that opening. As you see here, you'll see those legs just come right out from underneath them. That's what we're looking for, a clear-cut case of horse collar tackle, and well done mechanically on this play. Okay, in this play we have a scrimmage kick. Pretty good job of mechanics and sticking with our responsibilities and dead ball officiating. So you'll see a punt return up the sideline, head linesman in good position, kills the play, and then we have a late hit out of bounds, properly called, sticks with players, dead ball officiates. This is well done by the head linesman. Good positioning, good judgment. These are fouls that we want to get. Number 7 steps out of bounds, we're killing it, and then he gets taken out about 2 yards out of the sideline. So well done, head linesman here. We're not coming too far downfield because back judge can help us on our side of the field, head linesman, which we do here, killing the play, and then they still hit them 2 yards out. So well done mechanically and judgment. And again, these are safety fouls. Game control fouls that we want to get, and we do here. So well done by the head linesman and the crew. Okay, on this play, I want to take a look at mechanics and then judgment and then how we dispense of this foul. So you'll see we have some movement, potential false start, encroachment. We have a flag by the line judge at the bottom of the screen. Umpire also has a flag. Referee does an excellent job of coming in, getting them to talk out what they have, come to an agreement, and then makes an excellent announcement that we have a false start on number 67 of the offense. And you'll see on the replay here that number 67 flinches. We don't have encroachment first. So this is well done. Umpire, line judge, they have flags. We don't go with a preliminary signal because we have multiple flags down, so we can't have a preliminary signal. We come together, make sure we have the same thing, and then referee can go ahead and announce the penalty. So well done here. Line judge, umpire come together. Referee, gets them together, make sure we're on the same page, announces the penalty, they mark it off, and then we get on with the next down in a quick, efficient manner. So this is real well handled and proper judgment by the crew. Okay, we talked earlier about intentional grounding and what constitutes that foul, and we have a clear-cut case here. You'll see that the quarterback rolls out to head linesman's side and then dumps it well over the team bench area to the band, and this is clearly not to an area occupied by an eligible receiver and is ultimately called as intentional grounding by the crew. You'll see that the head linesman comes in to offer information, which is what we want, and then we have an excellent announcement by the referee. Reminder, 5 yards, spot foul, loss of down is what we're doing with that, which is what we do here. We talked about the aspects of the rule, but let's talk mechanics. So referees, you should stick with the quarterback. He's getting hit here. He's under duress. We want to make sure he doesn't get clobbered. So we need to stick with him. The information about the receiver and whether there's an eligible receiver in the area should come from one of our crewmates, which it does here. You'll see that the head linesman is coming in. Other crew members, if you do not have a receiver in the area, you should come to the referee and tell the referee, I do not have an eligible receiver in the area. Do not come in and say, I have intentional grounding. You just need to offer that information. The referee can then drop the flag if he determines that the quarterback was trying to save yardage, which he is in this case. Line of scrimmage, back judge, umpire, if you feel there is an eligible receiver in the area, you're going to point at that receiver. That tells the referee that there was someone there and that we're good. We're not going to have intentional grounding. Now, how do we define that? If the receiver is coming back towards the quarterback, we're going to give them a little bit more leeway, and we're going to give them about 7 yards from where the ball hits the ground, and we'll call that good for intentional grounding purposes. If the receiver has no clue that the ball is there, we're only going to give them 5 yards. So if the ball lands more than 5 yards from that receiver who doesn't know it's there, then we're going to have intentional grounding. In this case, clearly more than 5 yards away from any receiver. This is enough for intentional grounding and is properly called and properly handled mechanically by the crew. Okay, in this play, we have a quarterback rolling out to the referee's side, getting chased by defenders, heading towards the sideline, and then he throws it away into the team bench area. So a couple things to consider here. One, roughing the passer. We need to make sure we're good with that. Secondly, we need to make sure he's not out of bounds first. So line of scrimmage officials make sure we're staying home so we can help with this. And then finally, intentional grounding is something that we need to consider. So clearly in bounds when contact is made, driven out of bounds, nothing extra. And so we have intentional grounding, the crew confers, and then we dispense of the foul, and we have an excellent announcement by the referee.
Intentional grounding, offense number 12. 5-yard penalty from the spot of the foul, loss of down, 4th down.
So well done here by the crew. Properly no call, roughing the passer. Keep him in bounds when the contact is made, as you see here. Not enough for a foul, and clearly no receiver in the area, so we would have intentional grounding, which is properly called, and an excellent no call for roughing the passer or unnecessary roughness. Okay, that will do it for the training tape for this week. I know it was a lot longer than other tapes, but a lot of complicated, detailed plays on this one, most of which were handled really well by the crews. There's just a lot that goes into these plays, both rules knowledge and mechanics, and then it's not just involving one official. It's going to involve multiple officials or the whole crew to get it right, which we do in almost all of these cases. So put yourself in the position of these officials. Mechanically, what you would be looking at, what would you say to the referee or your crewmates if you had these plays, because many of these plays are very unusual, don't happen very often, but when they do happen, we want to handle them well and make the crew look good by knowing the rules, understanding the mechanics and philosophies that we're looking for, and in most of these cases we do that. So use these in your pregame. Talk about the mechanics of intentional grounding, talk about the mechanics of unusual plays, dead ball officiating, and how we would handle these so that we'll handle them well in our games. So good luck to the crews this week. First games for most of you, if not all of you, and have a great time. Don't get hurt. Don't forget to smile, and we'll talk to you next week.